Your one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal! Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me! That is absolutely unbelievable! Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in, the header is in! By Virgil van Dijk! Incredible! A very good afternoon and welcome to Premier League Live this Sunday afternoon, and already a crazy lunchtime game at the Tyne Wear derby, which Sunderland for the second time this season have beaten Newcastle United in that fixture. That late Brian Brobby goal securing the 3 points for Regis Lebris's side after Newcastle took the lead in that game. But at 2:15, two huge games involving teams at either end of the table. 3 of the 4 teams in action are all in a relegation battle. And Aston Villa looking to capitalise on the teams around them, all dropping points this weekend. So lots at stake in the 2:15 kickoffs in the Premier League to round off match day 31. And of course, the big one, the main event of the weekend is coming later on. The 2026 Carabao Cup final. Arsenal taking on Manchester City is at 4:30 live from Wembley. Looking forward to that one a little later. But again, it's all league action first and foremost. 2 huge games at Villa Park and at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We're watching the one at Spurs, where Spurs start the day just outside the bottom 3, as do Nottingham Forest just below them. A West Ham win and a defeat for either of these 2 teams this afternoon would see one of them in the bottom 3 come the afternoon's finish. So it is huge for both of these football clubs today, but you gotta say, for Spurs, if there is that combination of Forest and West Ham both winning today, Spurs could be in the relegation zone by 4 o'clock, ahead of what could be a great day for Arsenal, who are looking to fight for a trophy today. Never mind worried about league problems. But of course, Nottingham Forest, the side who've been all over the place really this season, but a team that a lot have pipped to stay in the Premier League for the remainder of this campaign, and they will hope to capitalise on what has been a terrible home form for Spurs over this season. The worst home form of any Premier League team is Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So if there's ever a time that Forest can come away with victory, it is today. But Igor Tudor's side have a decent record in the last few games, albeit knocked out of the Champions League in the week, but arguably played better against Atletico in that game. And of course, that draw away at Liverpool last week would have been a real boost. The first game that he didn't lose as Spurs boss, Igor Tudor, which you gotta say, you gotta start somewhere, and recently there's no better place to start than a result at Anfield. So two sets of teams in the tunnels. Of course, as I said, that Aston Villa West Ham game as well getting underway at the same time. So both will be very closely watched this afternoon. Looking forward to seeing kind of what twists and turns we can see here this afternoon. But again, it is huge for these two teams, and even a draw wouldn't be the worst result in the world for Forest. They would know they need a statement at this stage of the season with 8 games to go. They know they need a big result on the road to really catapult them into a place where they can fight for safety between now and the end of the season. But for Spurs, I mean, it is miles above. They're one of the 6 teams never to be relegated from the Premier League. And this season is certainly the closest they've ever come to changing that record, and maybe joining a couple and going to the Championship. It would be historic if that were to happen, and today is definitely a huge day in North London for Spurs. As the players come out from the tunnel, let's have a look at the two teams for this one, starting with the home side Spurs, and back to that back three for Igor Tudor. Vicario starts in goal. Wing backs of Porro and Spence, with Danzo, Romero the captain, and Van de Ven the back three. A midfield of Archie Gray and Pap Sarr, with a front three of Matisse Tell, Richarlison and Dominic Solanke. On the bench for Spurs, Kinski, Dragoshin, Udogi, Souza, Palhinha, Simons, Bergval, Gallagher and Colomowani, as Xavi Simons, who was an incredible performance against Atletico Madrid in the week, albeit in a losing manner ultimately in the tie, but won on the night and played a key role. Can he do the same off the bench this afternoon? But still, Spurs out with a lot of players still out. Kudus, Madison, Kulusevski, Davies, Bissouma, Audebert and Bentancur all still missing, but some boosts onto the bench. For Nottingham Forest, well, it is a big day for Vitor Pereira and his team, coming to Spurs knowing they have the best of chances any, really, to get a result here. Matt Sell starts in goal. Ola Aina, Nikola Milenkovic, Murillo and Nico Williams are the back four. Elliot Anderson and Ibrahim Sangari are the midfield two, with Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10. The wingers of Omari Hutchinson and Callum Hudson-Odoi, with Igor Jesus the centre forward. On the bench for Forest, Ortega, Morato, Nets, Ndoye, Dominguez, Yates, Makati, Bakwa and Taiwo Awonyi. Again, a huge game, a 6-pointer you really feel in the relegation battle. Spurs win, they can really renew hopes of safety and forget about a relegation battle. But defeat for either of these two teams could be catastrophic if West Ham can get a result at Aston Villa, which, depending on the top six's results so far this weekend, might not be out of the realms of possibility. Kick-off in our two 2:15 games at Spurs and at Villa is on the way next. A very good afternoon. Welcome to Premier League Live for two games to round off the weekend, both of major significance. And this one, two teams battling relegation. Spurs side who at the start of the season wouldn't have in their wildest nightmares have thought they would be in a relegation battle come this point of the campaign. But for Nottingham Forest, they also had an incredible season last season, but a turbulent campaign, 4 different managers. It has been catastrophic, calamitous, whatever you want to call it for Forest. But if they can stay in the division, it would be huge. But for Spurs, it would be earth-shattering for this football club if they were to be sent down to the Championship. Some clubs over the years might have thought they were too big to be relegated. Spurs would have included themselves in that conversation, but they have dropped quite a few levels since then. From a Champions League final back in 2019 to 7 years later, facing down a final against Nottingham Forest. You gotta say, it feels like a final. And how huge this could be for the remainder of these two teams' campaigns. Both needing their captains to give them early motivation before kick-off. Spurs and Forest, both in their home strips. Spurs white shirts, navy shorts. Forest red shirts, white shorts for this one in North London. Who knows what we will see this afternoon? But what you gotta say is whatever happens, it will be monumentous for whichever team comes away with the better result. As we get underway, Spurs with Vicario look to go long. One thing about Spurs, it's a majorly weird campaign. It's even more weird than last season when they went en route to the Europa League final and were kind of battling in around 16th, 17th, albeit they weren't in a relegation battle last season. They were too many points, really, and the gap was too big. But this season they're a Champions League team, and they were a Champions League team up until midweek. And they're doing so bad in the league. I mean, just 7 wins this season for Spurs, 14 defeats in 30 games. It's almost a 50% lose rate in the Premier League, which is relegation form. That's why they're here and fighting for their lives to stay in the Premier League. As I said, no Premier League season has ever had Spurs not in it. And that would be, as I said, I mean, monumental when it comes to the Premier League, not having Tottenham Hotspur. But for Nottingham Forest, they've been here to stay over the last few years. It's been quite a few relegation battles they've had to fend off over the last few years, Forest. They have fended them off, sometimes by the most minimal of margins, but whatever keeps them up. Now they're once again right in the mire after an incredible season last season of European football achieved by Nuno Espirito Santo. But a very different feel about the City Ground and about this Nottingham Forest team this season. Here is Amari Hutchinson looking for Ola Aina on the overlap down the right hand side. He's got options in the middle in the cross. Blocked there by Van de Ven, but picked up by Hutchinson ahead of Tell. Gibbs White whips it in, it's deep. Igor Jesus was there, but headed by Danzo back into his keeper's hands. Really good play by Nottingham Forest. Trying to pin Spurs early. Porro, lovely weighted ball down the right side. Spence trying to come across there and well defended by Murillo. Wrestling Solanke, felt he was held. The referee said no, but Forest have the ball. Elliot Anderson. Hudson-Odoi. Williams to Sangare. Well, both of these clubs will be hoping that obviously they do their jobs today, but maybe a bit of a helping hand as well from Aston Villa. If Villa win, both of these clubs will be very pleased that West Ham aren't, if not breathing down their necks, right up against them. Maybe trying to overtake them. As I said, a West Ham team who've had an upturn in form. Unbeaten in the last 3. Actually, only 1 defeat since the end of January for West Ham. Means they have become a team that looked as good as gone to a team that are very much not ready to be relegated. Very much giving it a good fight. Nico Williams. Back across to Ibrahim Sangare. Now Gibbs White. Down the left it goes to Hudson-Odoi. Looking to take on his man. Cuts it back for Anderson. Just gets away from Williams. Still alive as Anderson couldn't wrestle it into a shooting position, and Spurs break away and win the free kick through Richarlison. By the way, our referee this afternoon is Michael Oliver, I think it looked like there. I'll double check. It was Michael Oliver. Tony Harrington, our VAR. You see this early chance for Igor Jesus. Great delivery by Morgan Gibbs White, but Really good, strong defending by Danzo. Got his head in the way, and ultimately it dropped for Vicario, who was quick to react, but Vito Pereira trying to enact his centre forward's movements there. As Williams clears it away from danger. Nicely won there by Danso again, and Spence brings it in down the right here for Spurs, but battling was Anderson and Gibbs-White. Forest throwing everybody they can at it, but Gray comes away with it, and actually it's going to be pulled back for a foul on a Forest player. That's going to be a Nottingham Forest free kick. Early action at Villa Park, where West Ham have already been called into last-ditch defending territory. Mavropanos having to sweep behind a Jadon Sancho cross for a Villa corner. Pressure from the home side there already at Villa Park. Hudson-Odoi down the left, two in White in front of him, but he clips it through for Elliot Anderson, who's through, went down there, but fair challenge, said the referee. And Vicario can retrieve, but we see it here. I mean, it's far too easy. No one tracking Elliot Anderson until it's too late, and Archie Gray gets something to it, as does Kevin Danzo. See it here, little flick by Hudson-Odoi. Elliot Anderson, ball just got away from him, and yeah, fair challenge by Gray and Danzo there, clean. And that's going to be just Spurs possession. No foul, no intervention needed there. Many Spurs fans have really criticised the defensive shape of Spurs this season, these last few weeks under Igor Tudor. How they've looked so open and so easy to play through. Conceded a hatful of goals, Spurs. That's not what you want to be doing in a relegation battle. You want to be hard to beat. You want to be a tough team. And one thing about Spurs, though, they've got the quality at the other ends to find the net. Gibbs-White. Nice switch ball. Back to Ola Aina. Sengari. Anderson. Williams. Forest having more of the possession early doors here. Try and bypass the midfield there. Spence with the interception, followed up by Gray, picked up by Richarlison on the halfway line, and met by Murillo, who put it out for a Spurs throw right on the halfway line there. As I said about Spurs' home form, I was looking at it yesterday. They've picked up 10 points at home from 15 home games. Just 2 home wins all season. And just once since the opening day. Of course, they scored in the opening, won on the opening day 3-0 against Burnley. But since then, just 1 home win in their last 14 home games is incredibly bad. I mean, it's horrendous. And they've lost 9 of their 15 home games this season, Spurs. Only Wolves have lost more at home this season than Tottenham. Here come Spurs down the left. Solanke there beaten to it by Milenkovic, who puts it out for a Spurs throw. A little bit better. Solanke just going a little wider. Dragging players out of positions. Great. All the way back to Van de Ven here. He's under pressure. Tried to hopefully find it down the left, and defended well there by Ola Aina. Another Spurs throw. I mean, Forest have had over 80% possession in the first 9 minutes. Spurs need to get on the ball. That's a ball by Spence, and Ola Aina forced into a strong defensive header there to put it behind for the corner. And the home fans trying to energise their team from this early corner. The first corner of the game goes the way of Spurs. What can they do with it? Corner from the left-hand side. Right-footed delivery. Headed away by Jesus at the front post. Saar recycles. Comes wide again. Nice tackle there by Morgan Gibbs-White. Back doing defending, and Hutchinson gets the better of Matisse Tell, and it's going to be a Forest throw. That was put out of play by Kevin Danso, retreating. 10 minutes gone. It's definitely been the visitors who've been the better team. Nottingham Forest stronger on the ball, looking threatening in the wide areas, but you have to see real action at goal. That's a lovely little flick on. Here's Hutchinson in behind. Felt he was caught on the way through, but he stayed on his feet. Feeds it to Hudson-Odoi. Carried wide. Back to Nico Williams. Edge of the box. Williams back heels it. Hudson-Odoi whips it in deep. Too deep there from Hudson-Odoi. Nice idea, just a little bit too much on it. And it skips through for a goal kick. But again, Hutchinson's run. The little flick on. Hutchinson's running behind. He did well to hold on to it. Maybe just the pass carried Hudson-Odoi a little wide. It took the momentum away from the attack, but they did well to keep it alive, Forest. And Hudson-Odoi with the eventual deep cross. Just overhit it slightly. Comes to nothing, but there are positives there from Forest on the breakaway. Milenkovic. Back to Ola Aina. Pumps it forward towards Igor Jesus, who can only head it towards the Spurs goalkeeper. Gray. Danzo. Spence. 1-2. Spence back to Kevin Danzo, who was caught there eventually by Igor Jesus, who was trying to win the ball back. In the end, gave away a free kick, the Forest centre forward. Igor Jesus, who scored just 2 Premier League goals this season. He's actually scored 7 of his 12 goals for Forest this campaign in the Europa League, which is quite a feat. Hasn't scored for Forest, Igor Jesus, since a 3-0 win over Fenerbahce, where he scored and assisted in that game. His last Premier League goal came away at Brentford back on the 25th of January in a 2-0 victory for Forest. Actually, both of his goals in the Premier League this season for Igor Jesus have come away from home in wins. Away at Wolves and away at Brentford. But here comes Matisse Tell! And the deflection takes it wide. Will be a corner. Beautiful switch ball here by Archie Gray. Makes it look effortless. And Tell off that left-hand side gets the better of Ola Aina. Makes him think he's going to the byline. Chops back infield. Inside on his right foot. Does really well. Ola Aina just loses his balance. And Tell drives towards the goal. Has the shot. Deflected behind for the corner. Really good play by Matisse Tell. And he's the one to tick the corner. Swung high right through. And out the other ends for another corner. Took a deflection off a Forest head on the way through. Say the officials, Milenkovic is the belief. Corner will be to Spurs once again, this time on the opposite side. "14 goals from corners this season for Spurs. Forest have conceded 9. So it's a big plus point for Spurs. Tell fizzes that one to the back post. Richarlison! Headed wide. Beautifully delivered in by Matisse Tell. A real fizzer to the back post, and Richarlison has tried to head it back the way it came, right across goal again. And this one just wide of that right post. Huge goal at Villa Park. And it has gone to the home side. Aston Villa take the lead in that one. A huge goal for them and their hopes for Champions League qualification. And that is good news for these two teams that West Ham are losing. Here comes Pedro Porro for Spurs. They want to capitalise. A good spell that has been for Spurs as when a throw in out of Nico Williams. John McGinn, by the way, has given Aston Villa the lead in that one. So as it stands, West Ham will be on 29 points, Forest on 30 and Spurs on 31 as it stands, with these two drawing and West Ham losing. We'll keep you right up to date with that right the way throughout the afternoon. Long deep throw, just I think it come off the post there at the back post, but Spurs keep it alive. A really good spell this for Spurs. Can they use it to their advantage and take that opening goal? Well, flags up here from that deep ball. I'm not going to count. It's a great ball in, and it's Igor Jesus just heads it back to his back post. It comes off the post, kept alive by Spurs until ultimately the offside flag went up in the next phase, but piling on the pressure, and Forest living dangerously a little bit at this moment in time. Morelo escapes the Spurs press to find his centre-back partner in Milenkovic wide on the right. He's going to try and pump one forward towards Igor Jesus, who chested it down well. Lays it out to Hudson-Odoi. Back to Elliot Anderson. Swings it out to the right side. Chested down by Hutchinson. Nice play by Forest. Hutchinson tiptoes to the box. Goes for the shot. Right down the throat of Vicario. Again, really good play from Forest. The Spurs pressed in. They played a little bit longer. Beautiful control by Igor Jesus, and they keep it alive in and around the box until Hutchinson steps onto his left foot, cuts inside tail, and has that shot right down the throat of Vicario. Better though. They wrestle back some control of this game after they dominated the early spells, Forest, with the possession, but Spurs have kind of swung the momentum in their favour over the last 5 minutes. Long way to go though. No damage done for either team as of yet. Elliot Anderson. Leaves the ball to Nico Williams, who just about keeps it in. Works it back inside to Hudson-Odoi. Now across to Ola Aina. Hutchinson. Back to Aina. Hudson-Odoi comes more central. Help out in the Forest build-up here. Oh, gets caught in possession there with that ball. Sangari trying the press and Spurs trying to flick it over the top, but Milenkovic has it under control against Richarlison. And the last touch actually came off Richarlison. It looked like there. Yeah, Spurs press again, coming out on top as Tell tries to break down the right, but Ola Aina there to mop it up again, but from the throw in there, Forest too easily dispossessed, and Spurs were able to snatch it away and break up the field. Now Spurs are going to go for a long throw, I would suspect. Kevin Danzo to take. Launched into the area. Dropped and hooked away by Forest. Fed back in by Porro. Drops to Aina, who was late. Referee says no penalty. Spurs keep it alive. And Hudson-Odoi can clear from the edge of the box. But that looked all day long from this wide angle. That Olaina fouled his man, but referee had a better view of it than I did. Michael Oliver said no. VAR, of course, will check every little detail, but here's Tell on the move off Spurs again. Tell trying to break into the box. A couple of players trying to stop him. Sangari, the most recent, and referee's letting a couple of things go. And there he is going to give a foul in the way of Forest. But there's two Spurs players down in the process as well as Ibrahim Sangari. Michael Oliver, a tough game to referee so far, but both of these players, sets of players, very aggressive in their approaches. We see this. He just pulls out in time, Olaina. Papsar there. Yeah, that's a great decision by the referee. I mean, he is literally millimetres away from making contact there, Olaina, and any sort of contact that would have seen him go down and penalty would have been given, but no contact it was in the end, and Olaina is very lucky that he pulled out at just the right time. As Archie Gray has stayed down here. I said there was two players in Spurs colours down. Gray was the one that was down. He's just back to his feet, but feeling a bit of pain in that right leg. Of course, a lot of injury problems Spurs have had this season. Archie Gray has been, been everywhere for Spurs all season. He's played every single position he probably could have. Probably bar a goalkeeper this season. It was just a clash between him and Ibrahim Sangari that caused the issue. See it here, he went sliding in and it just kind of clashed legs. It's a painful one. They're both okay to continue. Spurs have definitely wrestled the grip of this game in the first quarter of the match. Forest had the early play. It's been Spurs that have taken firm grip, but again, no damage to the Forest defence as of yet. No goals. And the game can ebb and flow any which way. And, Spurs certainly don't need that. Well, Spurs have lost the last 3 Premier League games against Nottingham Forest, having won 6 in a row against them before that. They lost 3-0 in the reverse fixture at the City Ground back in December. That was after a 2-1 defeat here last season in April, and a 1-0 defeat at the City Ground in December of last season on Boxing Day. Only scored 1 goal in the last 3 games against Forest. Spurs, and that was here in the meeting between the sides last season in the league. In that 2-1 defeat, Charlton with the 87th minute consolation goal. Ultimately, Elliot Anderson and Chris Wood scoring the 2 goals inside 16 minutes to give Forest a 2-goal lead. Nico Williams trying his best to flick the ball away from Kevin Danzo, but Danzo had it under control ultimately. Porro challenged and brought down there ultimately. That's going to be a Spurs free kick. As I said, the last time Spurs won against Forest was a 3-1 win here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in April of 2024. Murillo put into his own net to give Spurs the lead. Chris Wood then levelled for Forest before Mickey van de Ven and Pedro Porro found 2 second-half goals to make it 3-1. Spurs ended up finishing 5th in that season under Ange Postecoglou. Forest finished 17th on 32 points. Tell lays it to Mickey van de Ven, who's turned into a fullback and tried the cross. Well defended by Milenkovic, but Mickey van de Ven stayed down off the field here. Van de Ven, we'll see it again. Was he fouled? No, there's nothing in that. No. Just strong defender by Ola Aina. It's not a foul. Mickey van der Ven, I think, going at such speed that he's not used to as a centre-back. He kind of just loses his footing and his balance there, and that's what sees him go down rather than anything else. Another long throw from Spurs here to come, though. Kevin Danzo to take once again from this left-hand side. Swung in, headed away by Jesus at the front post, kept alive by Gray, but a bit of ping-pong between the two teams. Still alive with Romero, but ultimately well cleared by Forest as Hutchinson had opportunities to break there and well dispossessed by Archie Gray. Forest can't really get the ball down and string one or two passes together there. Being well seen out of this game by Spurs so far. Spurs very much on top. Need to make it count. They scored 40 goals this season, Spurs. That is the most of any side in the bottom 7. Actually better than only bettered by just 2 teams in the whole of the bottom half. Only Bournemouth and Newcastle have scored more goals than Spurs when it comes to bottom half teams, 11th or lower. And actually have scored more than a couple of top half teams as well, more than Everton and one less than Brighton and Aston Villa, funnily enough. Speaking of Aston Villa, they're still 1-0 up against West Ham, but there's a VAR check ongoing. Paul Tierney's just been called to the monitor. I'm not too sure what for, but I'm sure I'll find out in a second. There is VAR intervention at Villa Park. And I'm grateful to see Paul Tierney's face, but I would like to see what he's looking at. Is it a penalty? They're checking for a possible penalty for Aston Villa. Whether Ollie Watkins was fouled, that's not a penalty. That's just good, strong defender by Mavropanos, I think. Yeah, he gets all ball there, Mavropanos. I don't think it's a foul. We are asking Paul Tierney to check. He's taken quite a few looks at it, Paul Tierney. Actually not sure what's just happened, but he's just announced the decision. And I think it's a penalty to Aston Villa. Or is it? No. I don't think it should be a penalty. He wasn't fouled there, Ollie Watkins. Here comes Spurs. Ball in behind for Richarlison. Cuts it across! And sliding in was Solanke. The flag was up anyway against Richarlison, but Solanke sliding in. Couldn't make any contact in the 6-yard box. Again, they win it back here. It's Jed Spence, wins it back down the right. Feeds it through to Richarlison, who may have been just a half-yard offside. And as he breaks to the byline, cuts it back for Dominic Solanke in the middle, who was throwing his body at it. Just couldn't get there quick enough. Ultimately, the flag was up against Richarlison, but big chance for Spurs. The penalty wasn't given at Villa Park, so no penalty. Correct decision in my opinion. So it stays 1-0, and Villa on the attack again there. Lovely from Pedro Porro. Archie Gray. Richarlison couldn't squeeze it through, but Gray trying to switch the ball. A little bit too narrow, that one. And Aina can just head it back to Matt Sells. Forest defence that have come under a lot of pressure in this first half so far. In the last 10 minutes, only 19% of the possession has been in the Spurs defensive third. So the momentum has certainly swung in Spurs' favour. They're the team in the ascendancy. Here is Gray down the right. Porro with the early cross. Blocked by Williams, who took a firm whack. It's going to be a corner. And It's not a nice one to take there for Nico Williams. Let's just say that. Very sensitive position. 30 minutes gone here in North London. Spurs 0, Forest 0, but as I say, Spurs are definitely the team pushing for the opening goal. Forest trying their ever hardest to keep it level. So far, successful in doing so. They'd definitely be under the cosh though, Forest. Matisse Tell will take this corner for Spurs. Fizzed again, narrowly across the 6-yard box. Drop for Richarlison, who tried to flick it back across. It took a deflection, which is going to see another Spurs corner. Yeah, see it was so narrow across that. It was a direct straight cross by Matisse Tell. I mean, it was in line with where he took the ball right directly across the 6-yard box. Drop for Richarlison at the back post. He had to flick it back across goal, took a deflection, and behind for another Spurs corner. Tell once again on it. It's time from the right. Swings this one to the back posts. Headed away though by Anderson. Hutchinson back to Anderson as Forrest won a break. Not given the chance there. Good challenge by Porro. Ahead of Elliot Anderson. Puts it out for a throw. Now since that Hutchinson move, that run in behind, we haven't really seen much of Forest on the breakaway, on the counter-attack. Spurs have done really well at isolating the right players and making sure that Forest cannot get the jump on them. The pressing's been really strong, Spurs, in the last 20 minutes. Winning the ball back in really good areas and trying to capitalise upon it. Here's Tell. Swings it in from the left and just probably a half-yard above the head of Richarlison. Really good ball in by Matisse Tell. Richarlison making that run to the back post. Wasn't too far away. Yeah, beautiful delivery. Just over the head of Richarlison. He was trying to lurk in there at the back post. But to no success. And Forest haven't won back-to-back games away at Spurs in the league since they did 3 in a row between 1994 and 1997. Here's Matisse Tell running in behind. He stayed on his feet. It's going to be behind for a corner from Ola Aina. Again, Matisse Tell's running the show for Spurs here. It's down this left-hand side again. He's got... Who is it in cover? I think it's... Yeah, it's Milenkovic. Just comes across. Kind of goes down far too easily. Tell stays on his feet. It gets to the byline, cuts it back. And Ola Aina there to force it out for another Spurs corner. This is their 6th corner of the game. Tell delivery. Oh. Headed away at the front post there. Behind for another corner. Igor Jesus and Ola Aina there. Jesus was the one to head it away. Racking up the corners, Spurs, and it's a dangerous game to play from Forest, as we said about their proficiency from set pieces this season, Spurs, especially corners. That one's cleared away by Anderson. Spence, back out wide to Tell. 2 Forest players in his way, but he cuts it back to Spence. He will go for the cross. Up and headed over by Murillo. Corner number 8 for Spurs. Constant pressure. Can they get the breakthrough? So far the answer to that is no. Just over around about 11 minutes to go with the first half. The longer it takes, the longer Spurs continue to dominate without scoring. It's going to become more and more frustrating. Tell again, like he has every corner so far, he's going to take it. As from this right hand side, we've seen a couple of those fizzed corners right to the back post, right across the face of goal. Tell Goes for a more whipped cross this time, headed away by Igor Jesus again, who's done a lot of his action in the game. He's been defending the centre forward for Forest. A lot of them from those corners. Spence, Porro, Gray. Back as the last man there, Archie Gray. Gray allowed to ping one deep. Headed away by Milenkovic. Sangari picks it up for Forest. He's going to try and feed it down the right for Igor Jesus, but Archie Gray got the better of it there. Able to recycle it back to his goalkeeper. I think everything Forest have tried to do so far in this first half, since the opening 10 minutes, Spurs have had it, been one step ahead of them really. Able to cut it off at the source, and that's going to be another free kick given away cheaply by Forest. I have to say they've been really sloppy at times, Forest, in this first half. Giving away a lot of set pieces, a lot of corners. They've very scrappy. And that's a really lazy tackle by Ibrahim Sangari. Solanke there with was the one that was fouled. Lucky to not get a yellow card there, Ibrahim Sangari, I think. Here's Richarlison. Fending off Sangari for the moment. Lays it out wide to Tell, right at the touchline. Tell trying to dribble his way past. He gets past Sangari but runs into Hutchinson. Uses his skill to evade the challenge. Gray. Danso. Lovely little move from Porro. Feeds it out wide for Spence, who whips across in. Headed away by Milenkovic, but Spurs will come again. Again. More pressure. Richarlison, first time trying to find it over the top for Porro. Headed and cleared away by Forest. They're scrambling to get anything clear of the box. And Elliot Anderson's going to get a free kick here, fouled by Christian Romero. Maybe a little bit of a breather for Forest defensively. Something they need at this moment in time, you gotta say. Gibbs waits. Aina down the right hand side comes Hutchinson up against Van de Ven. Hutchinson whips it towards the box. Cleared away by Van de Ven, Danzo and Romero back to back there, as ball will drop out for a Spurs throw on the far left side. Been a very quiet travelling Forest contingent so far. Not seen much of their team playing up this side of the field. Quick update from Villa Park. Still Aston Villa 1, West Ham 0. John McGinn's goal, the difference between the two sides. Villa looking to capitalise upon Chelsea, Liverpool and United all dropping points this week. And looking to capitalise as the only team out of the top 6 with a win this weekend. Of course, Arsenal and City not playing. And at the moment, Villa are within a point of United because they are winning and would be 5 clear of 5th place Liverpool, which is a huge gap, albeit they do play each other still in this season. Liverpool still to play everybody in and around them. Everton, Brentford, Chelsea, Man United and Aston Villa. 5 of their last 7 games. Van de Ven. Romero. Spurs just being a bit more patient. Danso. Spence. Back to Kevin Danso. He goes back to Vicario. 40 minutes gone. Spurs 0, Forest 0. Spurs have had their spells of real good possession, real pressure on Forest, but as I said, haven't been able to find the net. Forest have hung on in there really in this first half and really offered very little in attack. Had just the one shot in the game. That Forest shot came in the 18th minute. It's been very one-sided the last 20 minutes or so, but Spurs haven't been able, as I said, to use that to any advantage. And Forest can snatch it. So here come Gibbs-White down the left. Chops inside, brought down there by Jed Spence, and that's going to be a Forest free kick. Another rare foray forward here for the visitors. We talked about Spurs' home record. Forest's away record isn't great, but 1-4, drawn 3 and lost 8 of their away games this season in the Premier League. Picked up 15 points. Only 3 teams have picked up less points on the road than Forest this season. That's Leeds, Burnley and Wolves. Elliot Anderson over this Forest free kick. On the left-hand side. Going for the switch, the short one to Hutchinson, who just about kept it in. Works it back to Anderson, who will now whip it. Headed away. As Murillo will just play it back to Ola Aina, the last man there for Forest. Aina pumps it up the field. Flick on by Milenkovic. Taken in by Igor Jesus, who tried to find it to Hutchinson, who will take it in. Down the right, and then he was beaten to it by Archie Gray on the cutback. And Gray wins it back for Spurs. Again, looked a little bit aimless for Forest, just trying to do things without really much intention behind it, if you know what I mean. They just looked like they were working off a whim, rather than real conviction and intention and understanding of what they wanted to do. I mean, that free kick probably summed it up, but I don't think they knew what they wanted to do from that free kick situation. Anderson. Milenkovic. Aina down the right channel. Hutchinson back to Sangari. Better spell of possession for Forest though. Best spell since the early play of the game. Anderson across to Murillo. Now Nico Williams. Finding Gibbs-White. Little 1-2s. Murillo caught there, but won back well by Nico Williams, who was quick to react. Fed out wide to Hudson-Odoi. Down the left side. Rolls it in behind. Gibbs-White trying the cut back. Blocked behind for the corner. That's going to be their first corner of the game, Forest. The 9th of the match overall, but the first in a Forest persuasion. Can they beat Spurs at their own game? Travelling Forest fans watch on the far side of the field. Corner, left-hand side. Gibbs-White to deliver, right-footed. Swung to the back post. Headed away. Picked in by Anderson, and the shot forced over the bar by Vicario. Igor Jesus with the connection. See it again here. Gibbs-White's delivery. Cleared away in the middle by Romero, I think. Drops for Anderson, who heads it back in. And working to flick it on there in the air. Igor Jesus adjusting at the last second. And the shot just over the crossbar. Forced over by Vicario. Behind for another Forest corner. Better from Nottingham Forest all of a sudden. Corner whipped in again. Headed and in! Igor Jesus has fired Nottingham Forest in front. He was the one that won the corner from his effort. Acrobatic one, forced over by Vicario. And he is the one at the back post. Heads it back across goal into the bottom left corner. And Spurs with all the pressure, all the chances. They are the ones on the verge of half time. 1-0 down. Spurs 0, Forest 1. Igor Jesus. His third Premier League goal of the season. Beautiful delivery by Nico Williams. And everybody at the back post will see it here. Igor Jesus just steps away from his man, gets the better of Spence, and just doesn't even have to jump very far. It dropped right onto his head, and he directed it into the far corner. Spurs 0, Forest 1. I think they have right to be worried now, Spurs fans, because Forest, one of the worst teams on the road, are leading at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, right on the brink of half-time. The first half where Spurs, I said, have been the better team, have applied all the pressure. But how often do we say that if you don't capitalise upon the pressure you're really giving the opposition team, they will punish you. You will be punished. Here's a chance for Spurs to level. Forest clear it away just about. Shot there, I think, right from the edge of the box. Got down here by Romero. Stepped quite a bit up the field. Porro. Solanke, back to Porro. Whips it deep. Too deep. His tail did keep it in play though. Aina trying to challenge him away, but kept alive by Sarr. Now tail. Hit one from range. Good save. And then they're scrambling, scratching at each other. And it's going to be a free kick to Forest. Two Spurs players down, a Forest player down to Michael Oliver points in the opposite direction of the penalty spot. Says free kick to Forest. See it here. Tell was beaten by Aina. Worked it to Sarr. Back to Tell. Tell at the strike. Great effort off the crossbar. Whether Sells got a touch to it and then it causes all chaos on the rebound. Here, beautiful for Matisse Tell. And yeah, Sells did get a hand to it. Great save. And as it drops, just ensues chaos. Williams trying to battle his man. Hudson-Odoi and Richarlison kind of get a whack of each other. And ultimately comes to nothing but calls a penalty. Is being checked. VAR having a look after Michael Oliver said no. I mean, it's chaotic in my opinion. Is that a foul? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, Nico Williams has a right to go for the ball there. He's just battling Christian Romero. He goes down far too easy. That's not a foul in my opinion. And VAR and the referee agrees. So it remains 1-0 with a few seconds of the first half to go. And at half-time we'll show you what this goal and what the goal at Villa Park will mean for the table. Villa are 1-0 up at the break. The half-time whistle's just gone there. And there is the half-time whistle. Boos ring around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at half-time, as Spurs, who had been the better side in the first half at all the attack and action, were really dumbfounded when Igor Jesus headed in from a Forest corner to give them the half-time lead. They battled Spurs, and Matisse Tell had a great shot to try and level it just before the half. That was saved by Sells under the crossbar. But you gotta say, nervy Spurs fans at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and rightfully so. Half-time at Spurs 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Your one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this, and Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes! Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net! Oh, what a goal! Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me! That is absolutely unbelievable! Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. Welcome back to Premier League Live half-time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is Spurs 0, Nottingham Forest 1 at the break. Igor Jesus' goal right on the brink of half-time has given Nottingham Forest a half-time lead. Aston Villa also leading their game against West Ham by a 1-0. John McGinn with the goal there, delivering a half-time lead for Villa, which is huge for them at their end of the table. Already this afternoon, Newcastle were beaten 2-1 by Sunderland in the Tyne-Wear derby at midday. Newcastle, though, did take the lead in that game through Anthony Gordon's early goal, but a comeback in the second half from Regis Labrisa. Sunderland saw Chemsdean Talby score with a leveller, and Brian Brobby a 90th minute winner to secure a league double for Sunderland over Newcastle United, and now 11 games in a row unbeaten against their nearest and most bitter rivals. It finished Newcastle 1, Sunderland 2. The game we didn't update you on, that late game last night between Leeds and Brentford, there isn't much to update you on because it finished 0-0, but a big point for both teams really. Brentford, a big point for them in their chase for European football, and Leeds, a big point to take them away from this clutch of teams just below them in the relegation battle. Even with a Forest win today, they would still be a point ahead of Forest Leeds with that big draw at home against Brentford last night, but it could have been even more for Daniel Farke's side, who were the better team, but ultimately finished 0-0. It has been, bar that Newcastle result, it's been a good weekend so far for home teams, but this afternoon making it look a little different, certainly at Spurs as well, where they are 1-0 down at half-time. Reminder for you, the huge game to come in around about an hour's time. It's sped by because the Carabao Cup final, Arsenal taking on Manchester City. It's a 4:30 kickoff from Wembley, just over an hour's time, and we have the team news from that game. I believe the team news is in, and I can tell you, Kepa is in goal for Arsenal. White, Saliba, Gabriel and Nkapie in defence, Rice, Subimendi and Havertz in the midfield, Saka, Trossard and Gyökeres the forward line for Arsenal. For Manchester City, James Trafford is in goal. Nunez, Kushanov, Ake and O'Reilly are the defenders. Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Ryan Cherki in midfield, with Antoine Semenyo, Jeremy Doku and Erling Haaland leading the Manchester City line. Key bench players, of course, Marmoush, Foden. Attacking players on the bench for City, Martinelli, Jesus, Max Daumann as well is named on the Arsenal bench. Huge game, the 2026 Carabao Cup final sees the league's top two face off at Wembley for the first piece of silverware this season. Kick off at 4:30. Remember, extra time and penalties if needed, of course, to secure a winner. And we will talk all about that. We'll have it live in less than an hour's time from Wembley. But before all that, big second half to come in our two 2:15 games, where the three relegation battlers are all in the mix, and Forest turning out to be the big winners of the day as it stands. But what will the second half have in store? They're on the way next. Welcome back to Premier League Live, second half in our 2:15 games on the way in just a second. Some changes for two teams that are behind at the break. Before that, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. That'd be greatly appreciated. And thank you all for joining us this Sunday afternoon in what is a huge day in the relegation battle in the Premier League, and then a cup final to come a little later this afternoon. In around about an hour's time. By the way, I told you about changes. I'll tell you about the game at Villa Park first, because we're still awaiting Forest's return to the pitch here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But the two changes for West Ham at the break, Adama Traore and Callum Wilson are on for Freddie Potts and Tati Castellanos. So attacking changes for West Ham, who are trailing at Villa Park by a 1-0, have had just two shots in that first half. Villa have had 14 shots. So West Ham certainly behind, and deservedly behind as it stands. But remember, as I said, if West Ham come back and win that game, the loser of this match will be in the bottom 3 at the end of this afternoon. And at the moment, Spurs are the team on the losing side at half-time. What will it be after 90 minutes? Destiny Udogie and Lucas Bergvall are both on for Spurs. Those changes were being readied. And just before Forest returned to the pitch, they have now returned to the field. And what has Igor Tudor got up his sleeve for this second half? He wants to make some adjustments and tweaks to his side. But will that come to help Spurs or hinder them in the second half? A huge next 45 minutes for Spurs this season. They lose at home to a fellow relegation battler. It is catastrophic for Tottenham. They need desperately points at this stage of the season. They cannot afford to continue to throw games away. They are dwindling week on week, the numbers of games they've got to save themselves. Hutchinson right in behind initially. Goes down wanting a foul. Referee said no. By the way, Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence were the two to make way at half-time for Spurs. So I suspect the adjustments to be made. Porro will go to right back where Spence was, and Udogie will play left back, and then Bergvall will just take up the midfield position that Porro was playing in that first half. That's what I expect to see, but more of maybe a 4-3-3 possibly for Spurs. But look at that for a stat. Since November of 2024, Spurs have been behind at half-time 28 times. They have never come back to win from any of those games. 28 games behind at half-time, 5 draws, 23 defeats. That is the definition of a team with no resilience. No disrespect, but I mean, facts are facts. Here's Matisse Tell. Feeds it in behind. Udogie with his first action of the game. Fired it across. Cleared away by Forest. Might have been snuck off just offside there. Or was he just on Udogie? But the flag stayed down. Of course, Destiny Udogie. A welcome return to the Spurs side. I mean, had his injury problems over the last few seasons. And he's a real threat on the inside line. On the underlap, really, Udogie. Here's Tell. Doubled up on him in the second half, Forest, and Tell still wins a throw-in out of Olaina. Danso. Porro back to Romero. Now Kevin Danso. To Udogie. Trying his best to work something out, but has to go back to Danso and now to Romero. Ball played towards Udogie. He just couldn't take under control and cleared away by Milenkovic. Well, the Spurs side that ended up having slightly the more possession in the first half, more shots, more XG, more of everything really, definitely a lot more corners. But it was Forest with only their second corner of the game. As I said in their first one, they beating Spurs at their own game. Spurs have scored 14 goals from corners this season. And it's Forest, as I said, giving Spurs a taste of their own medicine, scoring from a corner of their own to take the lead. And I have to say, they're a Forest team that when they do take the lead, they don't usually give it away. 6 points they've dropped from winning positions this season. That is the league's best, which means they're a tough team to stop when they take the lead. A tough team to try and overcome. Spurs have only gained 7 points from losing positions this season. Villa pressure there as Manny Cash had a shot just over the crossbar. The Villa pushing for a second, and here come Forest breaking away with Nico Williams. They've got space and options. Right to the left it comes to Hudson-Odoi. He's got Archie Gray for company. Hudson-Odoi works it back. Ola Aina. Down the right flank comes Hutchinson. Trying to dribble his way towards the area. Well shielded. Back to Elliot Anderson, who whips it deep. The header across. Good save by Vicario. Big save. Otherwise that could have been 2-0. Forest were in a perfect position. Beautiful delivery by Elliot Anderson. And a diving header at the back post. Better again from Forest. Patient when they get in and around the box. Waiting for the right moment. Almost capitalising. That's a lovely ball breaking in. Solanke across. And Milenkovic puts behind for the corner. We'll have to see this moment again. I think it's Nico Williams with a header at the back post. Beautiful delivery by Elliot Anderson. No one tracking Nico Williams, who dives at the ball with his head. And Vicario with a good save. And Vito Pereira getting into the action as well there on the sideline again. But it's Spurs with a corner here on the far side. Matisse Tell over it again. Whips it in. Cleared away at the front post and followed up on the edge of the box. And that's going to be a free kick for a shove in the back of Omari Hutchinson. Free kick to Forest. Well, with this result at the moment, Spurs would drop to 17th, below Forest. On 30 points they would be Spurs, Forest on 32. And West Ham would stay on 29 with them losing away at Villa Park. But if they were to draw that game, West Ham, and this was to be the result here, they would both be on 30 points, but Spurs would stay out of the relegation zone on goal difference. That, you got to say, is one thing that will go in Spurs' favour. Their superior goal difference, albeit -8, but it's much superior to those in and around them who all have double figures in minus goal difference. Forest -14, West Ham -20, Leeds even above them -11. Free kick here for Spurs. On the left side, they're not in a rush to get the ball back to Spurs here. Or Forest. The doggy will be the one to take it. He just gets the game back and going again. Danso across to Romero. Wide to the right for Porro, who tried to feed it down the line. Just about gets it to Bergvall. Back to Porro. He's come inverted. Walks it to Bergvall on the right, who drifts inside himself, linking up with Solanke, who felt he was brought down there, but referee said no foul, and Sangari can switch it to the left here for Igor Jesus. Blocked and stopped by Romero, who did well, linking up with Bergvall. Now Romero, lovely little turn away from Sangari, but ultimately it's going to be pulled back for a foul on Romero by Sangari. He's going to get himself a yellow card after quite a few tackles and challenges. There, Ibrahim Sangari. The referee eventually pulls out the yellow card and books the Forest man. The first yellow card of the afternoon and his 5th of the season. Free kick for Spurs. Right hand side, very close to the halfway line. Take it short here, Spurs. Here's Porro. Will whip it deep now. Headed on and headed well wide by Christian Romero. A little bit flat, that cross, really, from Pedro Porro. It's hard to kind of generate that pace from where Romero headed it from. It's a real far distance and hard to get the pace and the accuracy behind it from that range. Clearly struggled there. have to say they've had a lot of set-piece opportunities. I mean, mostly corners today, Spurs, but they've looked really hapless with them. Oh, what's happening here? Danso works himself out of a wrinkle of trouble after he was played into that trouble by his own goalkeeper. Here's Romero going long, looking for the run of Tell. Beautiful take-in by Matisse Tell. Swings it across the box. Way by Murillo, picked up by Gray. Gray feeds it out to Bergvall, who will whip it across again, all the way through to Tell on the far left side. Crossing quite a lot, Spurs. A Dougie goes for the kind of dragged cross. Cleared away by Gibbs White, who's back defending. Nice little 1-2s here between Danso and a Dougie. A Dougie across. Finds Archie Gray. Still a bit of a too far a distance out to shoot. Papsar. He's going to feed it out to the left side to Tell again. He's got Hutchinson and Aina for company. Cuts back to find the Dougie. Tell. Now Gray, edge of the area. Blocked and a follow-up is over the crossbar. Better from Spurs again though. Adogie's certainly given them an extra kind of attacking threat down the left with that underlap that he has. Where he just comes very inverted, Adogie, and turns into kind of a link between the centre forward and the winger. Just adds that extra little bit of pressure down that side. It's kind of working it into nice angles, and Spurs haven't been able to ultimately use that. I mean, it was non-existent in the first half. It was Matisse Tell on his own down the left side, but turned into a real dangerous area for Spurs to try and threaten from. Aina steps in and wins the ball. Furley, says the referee, as there's a Spurs player down. Hutchinson adjusts well, and he's brought down. That's going to be a Forest free kick, which doesn't appease the home crowd as you would expect. It's one thing Forest can be and have been. It's a real difficult team to play against at times. They've got the bit between their teeth. They've got real clear intentions of what they need to do, Forest. They've got a result on the line. Can become a real horrible team to play. Got a free kick here, Forest. Long range out. It's Anderson over it again. Farrett round to the back post. Headed away. Kept in though by Hudson-Odoi. Now finds Nico Williams. He will win one. Oh, spin one right to the back post there, but went all the way through. Murillo was in the mix. Beautiful cross by Nico Williams. Beautiful whip ball. Gibbs White and Murillo were there, but just a little ahead of them. Aina steps in again. Well, put Spurs on the back foot here a little bit. Adogie pressed by Hutchinson. Tries to work out an angle, but gives the ball away in the midfield. Here's Anderson with space. Down the left it goes to find Nico Williams. Back to Elliot Anderson. He has the angle. Works it out wide to Hudson-Odoi. As Williams comes infield. Hudson-Odoi up against Porro. And way through there as he plays it back to Murillo. Back up wide to Hudson-Odoi. And now Elliot Anderson. Forest moving it nicely. Not allowing Spurs to really press them. Just keeping it moving, keeping Spurs moving out of possession. Just going to tire them out. It's going to make it a better game for Forest, an easier game you would have to say, but that's going to be a loose one given away by Gibbs White. Bergvall wins the free kick. He did the heavy touch initially and he tried to stretch to win it back. Gives away the foul. Constant reminder that the 2026 Carabao Cup final is coming up very shortly. Arsenal taking on Man City. Kick-off in less than an hour's time at Wembley Stadium for the first battle for silverware this season. At the business end of the campaign, and Arsenal face Man City. What is the new rivalry at the moment, it seems, in English football. We're going to meet in a final for the first time in 8 years this afternoon. Jesus closed down well. Again, the referee lets it play as Romero continues with the possession. Oh, and he's trying to use his feet as he's trying to hold off 2 men. And Zangari and Williams goes down. Zangari won it fairly, said the referee again. Letting the luck go, Michael Oliver, this afternoon, which is what you like to see. And every foul and every challenge, you got to say, is a free kick. Here's Hudson-Odoi down the left. Little onto around. Porro finds Hutchinson. Edge of the D, wanted to shoot. Blocked by Bergvall. As we hit the hour mark inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it is the travelling Forest support that are the louder. They're the team on the front foot. They're the team with the lead. Spurs looking a little lost at the minute. Need something from somewhere to ignite this game for the home team. They need someone to pop up and get them that leveller. That can really kickstart their game, Spurs. Yeah, second half where they've had more of the ball and more shots, but again, Forest just looked the more dangerous. Charlison, sloppy short ball there. Hutchinson in the way. Zangari angling it back to Murillo. And now finding Elliot Anderson. Now Nico Williams. Looking and waiting for what's ahead of him. Just lays it off to Hudson-Odoi, who returns the favour. They're playing a little bit of 1-2s, those two. Comes back to Murillo. Into Gibbs-White. Dare I say, hasn't had enough involvement today for Forest and for their liking. And as usual, equality. Hudson-Odoi cuts it back, Gibbs-White! And it's gone in! Commentators' curse strikes again. Just as I said, Morgan Gibbs-White hasn't had enough involvement in the game. Well, he steps up from Hudson-Odoi's cutback, fires past Vicario, and doubles Nottingham Forest lead. And this is going to look like another horrible day at the office at home for Spurs. 2-0 Forest, one of the league's worst sides on the road, are winning at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against the worst team in their home stadium this season in Spurs. But it's again well worked by Gibbs-White. He feeds it out wide to Hudson-Odoi, who just beats his fullback. I mean, it's actually, honestly, the first time Hudson-Odoi's really taken it on against Porro in this second half. Takes him on, gets to the byline, cuts it back. No one tracking Gibbs-White, who's, I mean, it's like a penalty for him. He's standing on the penalty spot. No one within 5 yards of him, shall I say. He's given all the time and space he would have wanted, and he finds a way past Vicario. 2-0 to Forest, and this is really, really terrible for Spurs when things couldn't look like they could get any worse. Well, dominate possession, dominate the shots, but have looked without threat at any stage today, Spurs. One or two little moments from Tell, but other than that, Richarlison and Solanke have practically been on the missing list all day. Too ponderous, Spurs. Surely at some point, the real significance of what is happening to Spurs is going to waken up these players. But now, as it stands, with what would be 7 games to go after this game, Spurs teeter above the relegation zone by a solitary point, and they are hoping that Aston Villa can continue beating West Ham. Otherwise, Spurs would be in the bottom 3 by full time. And that is stark. Really stark. But is it that surprising? A Spurs side, as I said, that have won 2 home games all season, 1 since the opening day. I mean, it is worse than relegation form. I mean, your home is meant to be where you enjoy your most points, where you pick up the most points, where you win the most games, where you really take it to the opposition. But Spurs have been bullied in their own backyard all season, and they're being bullied again here by Nottingham Forest. And as I said, a Forest team that really don't have much to really shout about away from home this season. They're making it count when they need it to. An issue here. Game's just stopped as Matisse Tell feeling something. He's probably been the most likely Spurs player to make something happen all day. And he's the one has some pain. 65 minutes gone. Spurs 0, Forest 2. A quick look to Villa Park, and Villa going to make a couple of changes. Still 1-0 to Aston Villa. There in that one, John McGinn with the goal that has given Villa the lead after 15 minutes. But West Ham in the second half have made it more of a game of it, and that is not what Spurs want to hear. That West Ham are maybe having a good spell in the second half. As I said, if West Ham come back and win, Spurs could be in the bottom 3. Beautiful cutback by Hudson-Odoi, and wonderfully met by Gibbs-White. Vicario should do better though. I mean, it's obvious Spurs' problems this season from goal when their goalkeeper is just, I mean, palming it in for fun. Really poor goalkeeping from Vicario, but that's not a surprise. Corner to Spurs, right hand side, 66 minutes gone, 24 to go, and they face a 2-goal deficit Spurs. I mean, it's a look of acceptance from Spurs, which is probably the most worrying sign. And they're going to make some changes. Matisse Tell's day, I think, is done. So he's coming off, as is Richarlison. That's going to trigger a double substitution then for Spurs. Randall Colomawani is coming on, as well as Xavi Simons. I mean, why it's taken him so long to enter the fray, I don't know. One of their best players as recently, Xavi Simons, and Colomawani on for Tottenham. Corner it is to Spurs, right hand side. Another goal at Villa Park, we'll tell you about that just after this corner. Right footed delivery, bounces down, cleared away by Murillo, who got the contact as it dropped. And as I said, a goal at Villa Park. It is 2-0 to Aston Villa. So maybe a bit of good news for Spurs, albeit the least worst news they could hear. And I can tell you it's very good news for Nottingham Forest. Ollie Watkins doubles Aston Villa's lead, which means that Forest will be on 32 points as it stands, Spurs on 30, and West Ham would stay on 29 points in the bottom 3 as it stands. But just 4 points would separate 18th and 15th. Leeds are in that mix now as well too, with Forest winning and Leeds drawing last night means it's all just squashed together a little bit, and it looks like it's 4 teams with just one place up for grabs really in that bottom 3, and 4 teams battling for three survival places. One of them will miss out. It will be West Ham, Spurs, Forest or Leeds. At the moment it's West Ham in that bottom 3, and they are trailing by 2-0 at Villa Park. And told you about the Spurs changes. Well, Forest are going to make changes of their own, their first substitutions of the day. Looks like it's Ryan Yates is definitely one of them. Spurs with a free kick here. And about 30 yards out, Porro is over it. Porro switches it to the left. It's off Gray, and Danzo couldn't stop it from going behind. Goal kick. More shakes of the head and real disbelief inside this stadium from the home crowd that this is actually happening. Ryan Yates is going to replace Callum Hudson-Odoi, who set up the second Forest goal. And we're also going to see the introduction of Taiwo Awoniyi, I think it was. And he's going to replace the first Forest goal scorer, Igor Jesus. So Yates and Awoniyi on, and Hudson-Odoi and Igor Jesus off. A midfield option and an attacking option, some fresh legs for Vitor Pereira's side with 2-goal lead with 20 minutes to go, just to keep that pressure on Spurs and keep the momentum in Forest's favour, not allow Spurs back into this game at this late stage. That seems to be the idea from Vitor Pereira. It's a game that's not had many clear-cut chances in front of goal. 9 shots for Spurs, 6 for Forest. Forest have scored 2 goals from their 5 shots on target. Spurs was just a 1 shot on target, and that's kind of where the disparity has come. Yes, Spurs have had more shots, but Forest have had 5 of their 6 shots on target. Spurs just 1 of their 9 on target. That's where the difference is today. 5 of those 9 Spurs shots have been blocked by Forest, so some real strong defending from Forest today. Poor attacking from Spurs all round. Still time for it to be changed though, if they can kick themselves into gear late here. Javi Simons, deep cross, too deep. Goal kick. Well, of course, both sides have a few weeks break. Spurs, their next league games away at Sunderland. 3 weeks today. Then they have Spurs, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away, and then Everton at home on the final day. For Forest, as I said, they've got a good break. They play the midweek before their next league game. Of course, they play in the Europa League quarter-finals. They've got Porto away on the Thursday night, then play Villa at home. It's a huge game. Aston Villa at the City Ground on 3 weeks today before they head with that return leg against Porto. And then they've got Burnley at home, Sunderland away, Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, and then Bournemouth at home on the final day. So some real tricky fixtures for both of these two teams between now and the end of the season. But as typical with relegation battling teams, pick up any points where you can and beat those in and around you. That seems to be the formula. And it's a formula at the moment that Forest are certainly getting the better of. Beating those around them. And picking up any which points they can anywhere else. Porro trying to feed in behind. Williams got the block and he's going to just about deny the corner. Anderson pings one up the field, looking for the run of Taiwo Awoniyi as Vicario comes a long range out here. And he hooks it clear. Out for the throw to Forest on the halfway line. Well, this is another stat that's crazy to say. At the end of March, Spurs will go into April, the 4th month of this year, as the only side in the Premier League without a win so far in 2026. They've drawn 5 and lost 7 of their last 12 league games. Only 3 sides have had longer runs without a win from the start of a calendar year, all of whom were relegated. Sunderland with 17, Derby with 18 and Middlesbrough 14, all coming in the last 25 years. But my goodness, they would head into April, Spurs, if they don't win this game that is, they would head into April without a league victory in 2026. 3 whole months. Mental. And their last league victory, Spurs, came against Crystal Palace back on just after Boxing Day on the 28th of December. They won 1-0. Since then, they have lost 7 and drawn 5. And have lost 5 of their last 6. Only picking up a point at Anfield last week. 1-1. It finished there. Lost at United, lost against Newcastle, lost against Arsenal, lost against Fulham, lost against Palace. And those 5 defeats in a row. 4 of which were under Vitor Pereira. It's the other manager, Igor Tudor. 4 of those defeats were under. For Nottingham Forest, well, their league form has been, as you would expect for a relegation battling team. They're without a win in 7, but have drawn 4 of those 7 games, just 3 defeats, and are drawn the last 2 league games away at City and at home to Fulham. So not too shabby for Nottingham Forest. And their last win came away at Brentford on the 25th of January, 2 months ago. And if I'm not mistaken, that was their last trip to London. It was. Corner to Spurs, right hand side, less than 15 minutes to go. Still we await any sort of comeback fight for Spurs here. Will it come? Right footed delivery from the corner. Up and headed by Gibbs. Wide as it drops. Sarr's shot deflected. Deflected wide of goal, but it could have went absolutely anywhere there because the keeper was already committed to one side. See it here. Sarr's shot deflects off Ibrahim Sangare. Deflects wide of the post. That is a strike of fortune there for Nottingham Forest. But a corner will come for Spurs. Their 11th of the game. Whipped in by Porro. Headed away at the front post by a Wonyi. Kept alive as it's just going to drop down for Matt Sells to jump on top of. Quick update from Villa Park. Still Aston Villa 2, West Ham 0. And Ollie Watkins with that goal in the second half to double Villa's lead. Who have been pretty comfortable since then. 22 shots they've had in the game, Villa, compared to West Ham's 6. So they have dominated their opponents this afternoon and are 2 to the good. Clock continues to tick down. Spurs running out of time to find a comeback, to find a way to get back into this game and get any sort of point out of it. From this straight, a point wouldn't be a bad result considering the position they're in right now, but is it good enough? That will be the question. A defeat at home again. Convincingly beaten at home, really, considering the way that Spurs have had so much of the ball today, but have done so little with it in attacking areas. I mean, it's really bizarre how poor they've been in front of goal. Still with just the solitary shot on target. Xavi Simons, well blocked by the inside runner there defensively for Forest, and they've got the moves. Find Hutchinson out wide, who's going to get a foul out of Papsar. It's going to trigger some movement from the Forest bench again. It's going to see the introduction of Dan Ndoye. He's going to replace Amari Hutchinson. Straight swap there in the wide area for Forest. Ndoye on for Hutchinson. Just over 10 minutes to go for Forest to get the job over the line, which would be a great result for them. Massive result in their fight for safety. The worrying sign for Spurs is the fact that they've been at home today against a fellow relegation battler, and it's not that they lose. It's the manner of which they've lost. The fact that they haven't looked like scoring all afternoon. Bar any sort of individual brilliance, even set pieces, the corners, they've looked, I mean, really lacklustre. They haven't looked like any sort of threat. And that's the worrying sign, the fact that even what they're best at is not working for them. They've got no other option. They've got no other way of trying to win. From open play, they've been really, really poor. Really lacking in the final third today. I mean, it just looks like a team that's not convinced at all of their own ability. Devoid of confidence, devoid of belief. They just need something magical, a spark from somewhere that can turn it around in a split second, because they've got the quality, Spurs, in areas that can cause problems, but they don't show it often enough to make enough of an impact week in, week out. Dan Ndoye wins the ball and wins the foul as he was caught late by, is that Destiny Udogie, I think, that committed that foul? It is, and he's going to get a yellow card. Destiny Udogie. Yeah, really smart from Dan Ndoye. He's just on the field, fresh legs and fresh mind, and he gets the better of Destiny Udogie there. Just anticipates the heavy touch, and heavy touch it was. Wins the free kick. Elliot Anderson will take this Forest free kick, but there'll be no rush, no hurry to take it. Down the line it goes to Ndoye, back to Anderson. And flick it over the top for Ndoye to make a run, but just overhit it there, Elliot Anderson. Come through for Vicario to take this goal kick. Spurs need to speed it up a bit, but as I say, they need someone to pop up. A goal here at this rate for Spurs might conjure something up, but that's not going to help. That's a poor ball by Bergvall. Forest scramble it clear, as they've done all day, and they've been able to show that even when they've been under pressure from Spurs, they've been able to hold out, keep them at bay. Simon's trying to choreograph something in the final third, but again, no way through this Forest team. Bergvall pops it outside, it drops here to the wide right. Porro! Flag's going to be up though, but Porro on the overlap there on the right tried to create something at the byline, but was offside. Yeah, Bergvall. Porro's onside. It's actually it actually went behind before he could get the cross in. Porro, that's what it was. So goal kick it is. Spurs change. Archie Gray's coming off. He's replaced by Conor Gallagher. The nerves getting the better of quite a number of these Spurs fans. You can see they're kind of dazed, in a trance at what they're watching in front of their eyes. Dan Ndoye goes down and wins another Forest free kick. It just ticks away another 30 seconds of the clock. Gives Spurs more work to do and less time to do it. Elliot Anderson going for the deep cross. Headed away. Williams is going to hit one from range, but optimistic and hopeful at best there. Comfortable gather for Vicario. 6 minutes to go of normal time. Spurs 0, Nottingham Forest 2. And with West Ham losing at Villa Park, at least it's something that'll save Spurs' blushes, at least for today. For how long will they be bailed out by other teams not taking advantage? How long will Spurs remain outside the bottom three? There's a free kick there. Gibbs White brought down. The man who scored the second Forest goal. The man was trying his best to help his team over the line. The big question will be, when do West Ham play next? They play Wolves on the 10th of April. That's a Friday night. And Spurs don't play their next league game until the 12th of April, which is a Sunday afternoon. Which means, theoretically, if West Ham were to beat Wolves on the 10th of April, Spurs would be inside the bottom three by the next time they play a Premier League game on the 12th of April. Wow. Oh, lovely flicking behind. Awoniyi's made the run, trying to get it across. In the end, wins the corner. That's really smart play by Taiwo Awoniyi. I have to say, Forest, I said earlier on about being a team that have been in relegation battles before. They've shown that experience, really, because they've done the smart thing. 2-0 up, away from home. Spurs team that are desperate for anything, and Forest have just done so well, winning free kicks, breaking the game apart, not creating much momentum. And again, Awoniyi there. Any other centre forward would have went for goal. Awoniyi smart, wins the corner, keeps the ball up the field. Williams whips it in, headed away by Romero. But again, everybody retreating for Forest right away, and the ball received by the goalkeeper. Swung out to the left channel. The bounce takes it towards Williams, who will cross in, and Awoniyi finds the third Forest goal. Beautiful. Williams cross, Awoniyi's finish. Forest with 3, and Spurs are being absolutely pummeled at home again. Gorgeous cross, first time finish from Taiwo Awoniyi, and all they can do is watch in disbelief, those Spurs fans, at what they are witnessing at home again. Again, it's just one long ball. Beautiful from Matt Sells to spot the target on that left flank. Gibbs White does really well, holds off Porro, allows the bounce to go to Nico Williams, and he cuts back onto his right foot. And this delivery from Nico Williams is absolutely incredible. Beautiful cross. And Taiwo Awoniyi right there, right place, right time. First time connection to fire it past Vicario. Beautiful delivery. Absolutely gorgeous. 3-0 Forest. Spurs are in dire trouble. Dire trouble. And Taiwo Awoniyi makes it 3-0. Wow. Wow. I said about Spurs' superior goal difference. Oh, first chance at goal there for the Spurs that have caused any real problem to Matt Sells. Dominic Solanke there. Ball just drops for him here. Takes it in a stride, gets past Milenkovic, controls it well and has the strike. Fired at goal. First real worry for Forest defensively all afternoon, really. Corner for Spurs. Right-footed delivery. Headed on, good save. Followed up and headed wide by Rando Kolomoani. Whether that that goal for Awoniyi has woke Spurs up, but I mean, it's 80 minutes too late. created more chances in the last 30 seconds than they have in the whole 89 minutes before. Does it take you to be 3-0 down? Try and fight for chances. Last minute of the 90 as Tao won. He did remove his shirt and celebrating, so he gets a yellow card. Of course. But I mean, these two could play, till the end of the season, and Spurs I don't think would score. Well, they've shown better of it in the last few minutes, but Forest have been really superior today. As a kind of reminder of last night's game between Everton and Chelsea in a similar way, in the fact that the team that's kind of scored all the goals, had all the chances, it's not the team that have dominated the game. It's not the team that have been in control of possession for long periods and had a lot of the pressure. It's just the team that have been smart about what way they've wanted to attack their opponents and been clinical. That's the difference. It's exactly what Everton did to beat Chelsea last night. The only difference is Forest are doing it as an away team. 5 added minutes. Spurs free kick whipped in by Porro. That was going directly towards goal but just skipped wide of the right post. Well, as I was saying before that Dominic Solanke chance a few minutes ago, Spurs' superior goal difference isn't looking that superior much longer. Forest and Leeds just within touching distance of Spurs' goal difference now. It's -10 for Spurs with these 3 goals they've conceded without reply. Still significantly better than West Ham's, which is -21, but West Ham can continue their good form, which they've had up until today's game against Villa. They could be worried about points rather than goal difference. Morgan Gibbs-White's going to be coming off here. Scored the second Forest goal. And he's going to be replaced by number 24. And that is James McAtee. And I think Nicolas Dominguez as well is on too. So a double change there for Forest laid on. And Elliot Anderson has been replaced by Nicolas Dominguez. Even the Forest bench, albeit Spurs, as I said before, have a lot of injuries, a lot of issues, but even the Forest bench, you think the players coming on, you think the belief that they're going to have more of an impact. But this is a Forest team, and as I said earlier, when they went 1-0 up, when they get the bit between their teeth, they're a team very hard to stop. And today has been much proof of that in the second half. The team that's kicked on from being 1-0 up at half-time and used that as a foundation to make more out of this game. Incredible from Nottingham Forest. They've been fabulous today and deservedly going to get the 3 points. That is going to be a massive boost in their hopes of trying to stay in the Premier League. But a massive body blow for Spurs, who probably thought today could be the day that could have changed their season for the good for them. As full-time whistle's gone at Villa Park, Aston Villa beat West Ham by 2-0. Final score there. A big win for Aston Villa on the weekend, where the rest of the top 6 all couldn't win. United, Liverpool and Chelsea all dropping points. And Villa creating a 5-point gap between them and Liverpool in 4th and 5th, which is a huge gap considering the remaining games. And by the way, I am just doing the team news for the Carabao Cup final because it is fast approaching. And you can keep up to date with the Carabao Cup final here on LFS in the next 20 minutes. Kickoff will be from Wembley. Arsenal and City go head to head for the first trophy of the season. We'll be going head to head for the Premier League title all season, but Arsenal seem to have the benefit of that and the real advantage at the top. Free kick here for Nottingham Forest. Just inside their half. Last minute or so of the game. I mean, they keep showing shots of Spurs fans, and every time they're sat in the same position, every single one of them, they are lost in their seats. They look absolutely dumbfounded by the fact that I think it's actually sinking in that they are very much in real trouble in a relegation battle. And I think today is the first real time I think it's really sunk in for Spurs fans that they're not just going to see a way out of it, and they're not just going to be too good for the rest. They are really as good as where they are in the league. That's the simple and harsh fact of it. And there is the final whistle. A huge 3 points for Nottingham Forest in trying to stay in the Premier League. But another damaging home defeat for Tottenham Hotspur, who look ever more in danger as the weeks go on. And games continue to tick away and fall away from Spurs. Still in 2026 without a win. Still outside the bottom three somehow by the solitary point. But they are bang in trouble, Spurs. And a team that won the Europa League last year, and a team that has been nowhere near this over the last few seasons. Maybe this season has come to really show the feelings over the last few years of Spurs, on and off the pitch, maybe coming home to roost. Final score in North London is finished Tottenham Hotspur 0, Nottingham Forest 3. And before we go, a reminder that the Carabao Cup final's on the way in just a moment. Arsenal against Manchester City from Wembley, as the two sides fight for the first trophy of the season. Join us for that in about 5 minutes' time. Thanks for your company.